Hi there, welcome back. Today's video will be short and it's about attention checks. So you'll often see that attention checks are disclosed, if you will, in somewhere in the informed consent or in a preview. And it basically says if you don't get the attention checks right, that you will be rejected. So the reason for attention checks is because there are bots out there that are doing work, and there are people who are just not paying attention and doing good quality work. So what they do is they embed a little attention check somewhere and to make sure that you're paying attention and that you're actually a human. So there's sort of a double-edged sword to this. I think that a good, well-placed attention check that's obvious and easy has a purpose for the requester to make sure that there's actual people on the other end and that they are actually doing the work that they've been asked to do. On the other hand, attention checks sometimes can be too complicated, and or they're unclear or really hard to, to discern what you have to do. So that causes people to interpret them different ways, and therefore some of them end up being wrong in the eyes of the requester. But from a worker perspective, sometimes requesters fall back on this attention check as always the reason why you rejected something, and they rejected something. And sometimes that allows a path for some less than ethical requesters to just basically, dump a bunch of surveys, then reject them and say, you missed an attention check. So I just want to give you a couple examples of attention checks and then discuss, when is a good time to have some documentation of what you did in an attention check for future reference. So a couple of examples. These are real easy ones. A lot of times you're going to see a paragraph in the middle or, maybe at the beginning, the middle. It could be anywhere in the survey, really. And this question may or may not be related to what you were already talking about within the survey and what you were already answering. But in this case, they're going to say, we're interested in your opinions. Research shows that your opinions are influenced by where you have previously lived, as well as a host of other factors. So far, so good. We are also interested in how carefully you read the instructions. So please ignore the question below, which is, in which of the following states have you previously lived? And instead select Idaho and none of those, no matter what states you have lived in previously. To me, this one's pretty simple. They give you very specific instructions as to what you need to do. So you go ahead and you're going to pick Idaho and none of those. And that's a good attention check in my mind, because most people are going to think that if they're thinking that this is a legitimate question, they're going to only think that they need to answer one of those, not two of them. So to me, that's pretty straightforward. I wouldn't have any issue with that per se, but I think it's a decent one. I've seen a lot of them over time, but here's another one. So the question is, Texas is the capital of the United States. So it says, please choose number one being not true at all, and 7 being absolutely true. And then it says this is an attention check question. Okay, so technically, Texas isn't the capital of the United States. So the answer, number 1, is true. So if somebody didn't realize this was an attention check question and they answered it truthfully, they would still get the attention check. So to me, this is an example of a not so good attention check, because anybody who is half paying attention even would probably answer this correctly. So usually, in my experience, attention check questions are either straight out instructions, ignore the question, and just put, press or click number 3 or number 7, or drag the slider all the way to the right, or don't answer this question at all and go move on. So those to me are more what you see. This one's a little bit, I don't know. I don't think it's as effective as maybe the researcher thought it would be. So I think that, every researcher probably evolves in their use of attention checks in order to get the best possible data. So anybody that's out there doing good work on surveys should be able to catch these, no problem, and put the appropriate entry in and move on. Now, the situations where I feel that you should have some documentation of what you put. So if you come across an attention check that's in any way ambiguous, you're in any way confused about what you're supposed to be doing, or there's a technical issue. So an example of that is sometimes you'll see an attention check that says, don't mark anything. Don't mark a bubble, a checkbox, nothing. Do nothing on this page and move forward. When you go to move forward, you get an error saying you haven't checked anything. So that's obviously a programming issue on the part of the requester. And in order to move forward, you're going to need to click something. So you have two choices at that point. Well, you have three actually. You can either wait, email the requester, and hope for an answer before it expires. You can just check something, screenshot or take a picture of the screen to show that you understood it was a attention check, but that you couldn't move forward without clicking something, so that if you did get a rejection, you could send that evidence. Or you could just stop, return the hit, and just move about your day. I think I very rarely return the hit, to be honest, unless I'm really concerned about the ethics of the requester, or I'm really concerned because they're a super new requester. Um, Typically, I'll go forward if I don't have enough time and get the evidence that I need to show that I got the error message, and then I put something in and I moved forward. And then usually I'll proactively email the requester and say, hey, this is what's going on with your survey. Most, good requesters will be thankful, and they'll switch it, so that people taking the survey later don't fall to that, into that same issue. So, for me, if the requester, it's really a question of, do I document it or do I not? And usually I do, so that I can contest any rejections. But it does happen. And if you're in any way wondering or concerned, I suggest you document it. Or if you feel like you can't document it and you're really concerned and you don't want a rejection, then you may need to return it. But that's the purpose of attention checks. That's my suggestion around attention checks. And really, you're going to find that 97, 98% of the time, they're easy attention checks. They serve their purpose, and then you can go ahead and move right on. But once in a while, you do run up against something, and sometimes it's for a well-paying survey that you don't really want to give up. So that's my suggestion on attention checks. If you have any questions, please comment below. Remember to like and subscribe. There'll be more videos coming. I have lots of topics, both questions that people have asked me and topics I've come up with over time. So stay tuned, and thanks for visiting.